Welcome back. So we're here with some more adaptive yoga, and last week we covered hand yoga, and I encourage you to continue working with that. This week we're going to focus on the feet, and it is so important to bring attention to our feet, to give them some love, to give them some attention, and to keep them moving through their fullest range of motion. This is important for functionality, for walking, for going up and down stairs, even for standing effectively with balance. Having good feet awareness and ankle feet mobility is really important for these very important functional movements that we need to do. So I have a series of exercises that I encourage my students to do on a regular basis. We do these a lot in my classes, and I'd like to share them with you. As with the hand yoga exercises, please work within your pain-free range of motion always. And if anything I'm suggesting aggravates any pain issues, then just back away from it, maybe just observe what I'm doing, and then maybe we can work into a more subtle version of what I'm suggesting. Or it may just be skipping it altogether, which is fine. I do believe that you'll be able to do at least some of these exercises, if not all of them. And start on the lower end of time or repetitions, and then we'll gradually work our way up from there. So we always want to start with warming up and bringing total awareness into the part of the body that we're focusing on. So bringing awareness into the feet. I hope that you are sitting somewhere comfortably, as much uprightness as you can do at this time, and then a feeling of your feet connecting into the surface beneath them. So whether you have a yoga mat or whatever, carpeted surface is fine, but I want you to feel a good connection down there below your feet. And then I'd like you just to lift your heels a little bit away from the floor, and then lower, and then try lifting the toes a bit. Heels to toes, lifting away from the floor. Now, as you bring more awareness into this simple movement, become aware if the one foot is doing something a little different than the other one. So to position your feet there where you can see them and observe them, that's a good idea. All right, so by now, after a good 10 to 20 repetitions of this, you're feeling the action of your ankle joints, the joints and muscles of the feet, and these lower leg muscles, which are crucial for this kind of movement. So from there, let's do a little bit of a non-weight bearing exercise. I want you to lift up just your right leg and move through in that pointing and flexing motion, but this time maybe you can go a little bit further in both these directions, both the pointing and the flexing. And then after, again, about 10 or 20 of those, see how it feels to circle around. And I find that a lot of times people want to start going pretty quickly, and that's fine if it feels good, but also slow it down and also go in both directions with your circles, observing the foot through its range of motion, pain-free range of motion. Then we'll go back to the pointing and the flexing to get that range of motion, that functional movement back online real good. And then we can place the right foot on down. Take a few moments just to breathe in between. You might tune in to how different you feel from one foot to the other. And then let's pick up the left foot. Give it some of that pointing and flexing movement, and see if maybe you can get a little bit more, not only through the ankle joint itself, but maybe all the way into the toes as well. The toes are also capable of extension and flexion. That's it. About the same number that you did on the first side, unless you have one leg or one foot that is less willing to move through its fullest range of motion like the other leg is. Then I want you to spend more time with that one side that needs a little more encouragement, a little more work. And after you've done those points and flexes, try the circles. See how it feels. Make sure you're breathing as you go here. Slow it down. And eventually, let's circle the other way. Now I'm giving my leg a little bit of support with my arms and hands, but keep in mind there is the option of supporting your leg and your foot on another prop. It may be a second chair. You could rest that heel on another chair out there in front of you. It may be resting on the floor, or maybe a bolster and a little bit of height there. This is not the only option. But come back to the pointing and the flexing when you are done with the circles. And then we'll relax and place that foot back on down. Take a few breaths, feeling yourself centering here. Maybe a little more awareness and aliveness in these areas. Now, you'll see I have a couple props down here on either side of me, and I do like to use these. This is a great prop that we use in classes quite a bit. It's a weighted ball with a nice little squishy texture to it, and we might leave in the side notes on this video what the name of this is and where you can find it. But any ball will do of about this size and a little bit of a squishiness to it. And that's a great technique to be using as we do this little foot manipulation. If you happen to have a small hand weight, like so many of us do hanging around the house, where this works very well, I think, as well. So placing that hand weight down on the floor right where your foot was, and then hopefully your foot fits right in between the outside knobs, and you're just slowly rolling back and forth through the foot, from the heel all the way through the arch to the ball of the foot, and eventually into the toes. Don't forget the toes. You can't forget those toes. They need lots of love too. So the hand weight works great because it doesn't roll around on you. Sometimes people that I've worked with said, oh, my physical therapist told me to use a tennis ball or something like that. Well, that's okay, except for they'll move around, they'll roll away from you and disrupt your series. So this is nice. It kind of keeps things pretty controlled right where you want them. So of course, the same amount on the other foot. Or if you have access to a squishy ball of about this size, you can use that instead. And I'll just switch over here, knowing that whatever prop you might have, you're going to do the same thing on each side. So if you've got one of these great balls, you can roll it just like we did with the hand weight, back and forth, all the way from the heel, all the way through the arch, through the ball of the foot, and into the toes. So you're going to really get that full range of motion through. There's many joints in the feet and toes, so we want to access all of them as much as possible in a pain-free way. Now here's the advantage of working with one of these balls. You can bring the ball into a nice centered position right underneath the arch in the middle of the foot, and after you've gone a good bit of forward and back, do a little side to side movement here. So crossing over the arch. And you can choose how much weight to put into it. You know, just the weight of the leg is good enough. You could even weight into it a little bit more with your upper body, your hands. Feel a little bit more of that pressure. I especially like that when you work into the ball of the foot. We want to keep this area very mobile and alive feeling, because it's that hinge and the pressure that transfers through the ball of the foot that really equates to an effective walking stride. So we want to keep a good mobility and dexterity even of this ball of the foot that goes into the toes. It takes a lot of the weight of the body transferring through your walking stride. So we're walking across the ball of the foot from the pinky toe side to the big toe side a few times, and then I want to really work into the toes. So pulling the ball underneath them a little bit more, lifting the heel up away, so that gives a little more of a pressure through the joints of the toes, from the ball of the foot all the way through the toes to the tippy toes, and you might even do a little side to side movement across those toes. Good. Okay, then after you've done a good bit of that, come back to the very center of the foot and try a circling motion with the ball. Circle it around. You might roll away and get underneath. That's okay. This is as much a coordination exercise here as it is a foot massage. And of course, we'll want to try to circle both directions. So a lot more you can do with a ball, with a right ball that has got some good squishy texture to it, doesn't roll away on you too much. But if all you have is one of these little hand weights, that's perfectly fine. So good stuff for feet comfort, mobility, and dexterity. But for now, I'm going to remove these props on out of the way and come back to the basic movements that we started with, the heel and the toes lifting away. But this can get even more interesting. Interesting in mobility and also coordination. So anything we do that helps to really fire up the nervous system in some unique and novel ways is good, is strengthening in important ways, especially for conditions that affect the nervous system. So here's one that I like to do on a regular basis. As you lift one foot up on the heel, the other side, the toes will lift. And then you transfer over from side to side as smoothly as possible. This comes close to simulating a walking stride. And once you get that coordination going, and it may take some practice, so be patient with the process, but once you have that smooth transfer going, you might even find that a bit of a swing of the arms, kind of like as if you were walking with confidence, might come along with this movement of the legs, the feet, and the toes. Make sure you're breathing as you go. And then when you're done, let's lower down, plant both the heels, lift all the toes, kind of splay the toes out a bit and wiggle them around. Feel them that much more alive. And then lower down from the heels all the way down through the toes. Next, we're going to get a little bit more into individual mobility and could feel even a bit like a massage. I discovered this exercise with one of my longtime private clients with Parkinson's disease that has had a lot of nerve pain issues and the tendency of the feet to go kind of claw-like. And I see this a lot with Parkinson's. One or both feet kind of want to lock in to a kind of a curled toe here and maybe losing connection with the ball of the foot in an effective way. So this is what I suggest. Getting either a yoga strap made of cloth like this, or you might get a leather belt, a thin leather belt that may give you a little bit more firmness to work with, because it gets pretty specific here. And when we're working one leg or one foot at a time, you can either rest that foot out in front of you, or if you have a lazy boy chair or couch kind of style, you can kind of lean back into it, let that leg be supported up there in front of you, and that may give you more easy access to the feet in these specific ways. So here's what I'll suggest. Get the center of your belt or strap and loop it around the sole of your foot, and just kind of find any comfortable position. Notice my arms are lengthened out and I have a gentle grasp on either side of the strap. Make this as comfortable and easygoing as it can be here. If you're bending the elbows and kind of holding on for dear life and the wrists are bent at a funny angle, it's going to make this a lot less comfortable and sustainable like I'd like it to be. So let things kind of stretch out, get comfortable, and then just do this little side to side shifting, pulling just a little more on the right hand and then on over to the left hand. And then you're going to change the position of that strap slightly. I'm going to go back a little more toward the front part of the heel now and do this little side to side, kind of squeezing, hugging motion. And I'm going to go over the heel, kind of the center of the heel, side to side. Just go where it feels good. If there's any areas of pain, avoid those. But you might really take the time to cover as much surface area of the sole of the foot as possible. You may find that there's some areas that you're like, oh gosh, I haven't felt that specifically, and maybe since you were walking barefoot on the beach or something. And this is kind of getting into that line of stimulation for the feet, the muscles, the joints, but also the nerve endings, which we want to keep nice and happy and doing their job. So now I'm going a little bit closer to the ball of the foot. And here's a really useful area I find for many of my clients. Going over the ball of the foot from the pinky toe side to the big toe side and doing these gentle shifting kind of massaging motions. Then, after you've done a good bit of that, and you might stay with that more if that's what you need, but for those that are getting kind of claw-like in the toes, or you're finding it very difficult to find a individualized movement of the toes, then here's what I suggest. And this is where it might be a little easier if you had a leather belt, but you can bend the knee, bring it in close, and we're going to actually thread this strap around just the big toe now. Now we need to be a little more gentle with these toes, so just find that degree of stretch, kind of pulling gently back through, and maybe a little side to side shifting motion. If the toes have started to do a little claw-like thing, you might have a couple sessions of the root of the toe being more supported, and then if possible, come up more to the top of the toe. And they may not be agreeable and they may slip off. That's okay, that's part of it. That's okay. And then, as much as possible, try each toe individually. And I know these three middle toes don't always like to go apart from each other, so you may have to really work that in between, and then just give it the most gentle of pulls, and then the most gentle of side to side shifting. And you may want to move from more of the root of the toe, getting the stretch back, more into the tip of the toe, or that top joint of the toe, giving that just a little bit of a stretch out. Now, when I first have started doing this exercise with some of my clients, their toes were so kind of squished together in that claw-like motion that I said, well, let's just do the big toe separately and then do the three middle toes together, at least to start, to draw that sense of aliveness and mobility into them together. Then, after about 3 or 4 weeks of that, they found that they could get into each of the toes individually. And be real careful with that little pinky toe, obviously, but do give it a little bit of attention, a little bit of a pull back, a little bit of a shifting motion. Yeah. Now when I'm done with that, I kind of like to go back to hugging the whole sole of the foot. So I might go around, just around the ball of the foot, give it a little squeezing, shifting motion, go around a little bit more in the arch of the foot, a little more towards the heel, a little more of that pulling, just to that point that feels good. And there you are. Now, of course, we have to do that whole series on the other side. Now, I'm gonna end with a standing exercise. Now that we've done all that great sitting and non-weight bearing exercise and mobility, dexterity work for the feet, I'd like you to try it out coming into a standing or weight-bearing position. So if this is safe and comfortable for you today, come to standing and have a balanced support right there next to you. It could be the back of your chair like I have here. It might be a countertop, something that's not going to move around too much for you, because I need you to have a good sense of balance and stability as we focus on the feet and what we've gained through those mobility exercises that we've just done. So I'd like you to just kind of do that little bit of rocking heels to toes a few times. Shifting your body weight forward to back, just a little bit. Keep it subtle here. It's fine if you even have your hands on 2 balance supports as we do these. Then see if we can fire up those calf muscles a bit more and really focus on getting a heel lift away from the floor, and then slowly lower back down. Heel lift and very slowly lower back down. Yeah, it's a balance challenge, and you might need to bobble around a little bit. That's okay, and then come back when you're ready. Now, if a lot of discomfort or pain comes along with this, probably the most weight-bearing and strengthening one that I'll introduce to you today, just make it more subtle or skip it altogether. And here's another alternative, or one I love that combines the weight-bearing movement and mobility, and that is to go to that exercise that we did seated in the chair, heel alternate lifting away from the floor. So almost like you were walking, but you're really focusing on lifting the heel as much as you can away from the floor, and you can really take the weight off of that foot that's lifting the heel here, if that makes it more comfortable for you. This is something, again, whenever you find yourself in a comfortable standing position, you've got some balance support, do a few of these. This will help to keep that mobility and awareness alive and functioning the way we want it to. After you've done those alternate leg and heel lifts, plant again. Maybe lean back into the heels a little bit, lift all the toes, give them a little bit of movement, and then replant. Now you're ready. You're ready to step off with confidence on a walk, up and down the stairs. Keep trying this out and test it out after you're done doing the exercises, and then after you've done them for a week or two, and see how you're feeling in connection with your feet and the mobility of functional movement that is meant to come along and support with these exercises. So let me know how you think it's working for you, and come back again soon. Namaste.